Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to edition 48 of The Mayor and I, with me, Lindsay Khan, and my comrade in arms, the Right Honourable
Power to the people.
Buckley, who I'm bringing him round to the revolution slowly but surely, which he will lead. This is a conversation that Nick and I have on a weekly basis, covering various subjects that we find interesting, that enrage me. Nick tries to calm me down. And
I'm trying to stop you pulling everything down, burning it all down to the ground.
I think revolution is the only answer, but anyway. Nick, your numbers have gone up, haven't they? I think you're up to 18,000 subscribers now.
By the time this is aired, it'll be very close to 20,000.
Really?
So we should be in 19,000 next couple of days.
If people keep watching and subscribing.
But they will, because we're great. And by the time this one comes out, we'll probably be touching 20,000 subscribers, which is amazing considering 3 months ago I had 3,000.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, guys, if you want to, guys and girls, sound like Jimmy Savile there. If you want to see us coming back here, contributing to help us on our way, if you could like and subscribe and comment.
Yeah.
Because the more activity...
We're getting more and more comments out.
Yeah.
And it's nearly all positive.
Yeah. And the comments, interestingly, Nick, are really interesting because a lot of them actually give us information and ideas for the next podcast as well, which is quite nice. So anyway, edition 48. Nick Buckley, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we covered immigration a lot in our last podcast when we haven't really talked about it for a few weeks, but there's a lot of stuff to cover. And we are now, interestingly, referencing the costs of immigration, which is that I think is becoming a very powerful argument to put to people, and takes a lot of the emotion, I think, out of the argument. But I also think I've said to you that I think more people are talking about this now openly and are less afraid to talk about it, because there was a fear. It was never been my fear to be called a racist if you talked about immigration. I've been able to get away with it because I'm a brown man. But I think a lot of good English white people have been scared to say anything because of the connotations of being called racist. But I think that's started to go away now, and people are more hopefully enabled and also feel more confident about saying these things now. So I think that's good. But because we covered so much last time, I don't want to cover it this time. But what I'd like to start to talk about is one of our favourite additional subjects, Labour bastards, as I call them. And at this point, can I apologise to James, who's a friend of mine who watches this regularly. James, if you're listening, sorry about the swear. James didn't realise I swore before he saw this.
All right.
So he said he feels more relaxed about swearing in front of me now. But apologies, James, if you heard my swearing then. But I think they are bastards, and I'm happy to say it. So the NHS has recently commented on the winter fuel payment debacle, and apparently they've said that will cost them another nearly 200 million a year to deal with little old ladies being wheeled in with hypothermia,
all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that'll have a knock-on effect. Yeah, of course it will.
So this idea that they're saving this 1.5 billion, it's now looking they might be saving, if they're lucky, $1 billion, if that, and God knows what else, how it may be depleted. So the logic, the rationale...
But also, if they die earlier, that's less pensions being paid out. So they'll be claiming back some money from there as well.
They are bastards, aren't they?
I think Labour, if you want to be a conspiracy theorist, have actually got a project at the moment to kill as many old people as possible. And I'll explain why. First of all, into winter fuel allowance. Let's kill the poorest ones. The poorest ones take most resources, as in council services, adult services, take the pension, stuff like that, and because the pensioners, they're giving nothing back anymore now. They use the NHS a lot more. They're more likely to vote Conservative and Brexit and stuff like that. So if we can diminish those numbers, not only are we saving money, we're getting rid of the people who vote against us. This looks like a plan.
So just pursuing that theme, what else are that? Because I think there are other things as well that I'll express to you. What else are they doing?
Other things are coming down the pipeline. They're talking
and this
now,
is specifically relating to
old people. So now they're talking about getting rid of the single person discount in council tax, which is 25% at the moment. So old people, well, all people who live in singly, but old people are going to have to find an extra 25%. The pensions aren't going to go up 25% to cover it. They're going to have to find that. And I would imagine there's other things coming down the pipeline as well.
Yeah, well, the things I'm aware of is the increasing of the pension age. Now,
Yeah.
whilst that ostensibly doesn't get rid of old people, it stops them being pensioners and taking state benefits
Yeah.
for a lot of time. So, interestingly, my brother who came over from Holland, I said to him, he's 66, and I said, I thought you were going to retire. You and your wife were going to retire. And he said, I can't, because they've increased the pension age for both men and women
Yeah.
in Holland to 67.
Yeah. Same as here, 67.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that, have they increased women to 67 as
Yeah.
well? But when
Men and women now equal.
yeah, when we were young, women retired at 60,
60.
men retired at 65.
65. Yeah.
But they're making us now work for
Yeah.
another...
But the feminists didn't like that, and the feminists fought for decades and decades and decades, and finally got women to retire the same age as men, and then they went, oh shit.
So yeah, well done feminists.
I spoke to a feminist about that once, and she said, yeah, I was fighting for that equality, but I thought they would reduce the male retirement age down to 60, and I went, you're an idiot.
That is likely to happen, isn't it? So yeah, so they're pushing the pension age up, so they're not paying little old
That's
ladies.
because we live longer and we're healthier.
Yeah,
No.
it's the same effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Push it, so that's reducing the cost there. They're getting rid of the fuel allowance. They're getting rid of the single person's discount. They're going to get rid of the bus pass.
I've heard that, yeah.
But the more chilling side of this, the other side, because I to me it's like a harmonica. They're pushing a harmonica shut on little old ladies, and the other side of that is euthanasia, isn't it?
Yes.
That's now suddenly acceptable. The mainstream media are happy to talk about it, how it helps the planet, and, little old people who don't want to be, and they're now brainwashing little old people into thinking, I better kill myself because it's better for the planet and better for the environment and better for the economy, because the economy's in a mess. So I'll kill myself so I won't be a drain on the economy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that in the press recently.
So every year, I believe, they pick one MP in Parliament to be able to put forward a law without it be going through all the channels and stuff like that. It gets voted on and stuff like that. And they've picked the MP, and she's picked this topic to go to Parliament with.
Really?
So euthanasia. So it's not like, so this is now going to be debated in Parliament, and they're going
they get like a free pass to debate what they want to.
Yeah. So this
Whoa.
looks like, this isn't like a fringe idea. This is now, it's definitely going to Parliament. Yes.
Who's the MP who's proposing
It's the one who replaced her dead sister, who was killed during Brexit by that crazy guy, shot her, I think.
I don't know. I mean,
Kim,
I know.
Kim Ledenbeater or something like that.
Is she Labour or?
Labour.
Right.
She represents the school, the area where that school is, where the teacher had to go into hiding and is still hiding now.
Great.
And she's never mentioned it.
I was going to say, why don't you deal with that?
Yeah, she's never mentioned it.
Is that Buckley, is it?
Batley Grammar School, yeah. So, yes, so euthanasia, how it's being addressed at the moment is it's for terminally ill people. So you're dying of cancer, doctor said it's terminal, you're in so much pain, we can drug you up, we're now going to look at a way of you to end your life. Most people will go, well, that seems fair. And there may be a discussion to have about that. But let me tell you what will happen. None of our public services work in this country. None of them are competent. Just look at everything they provide. Nothing works. We can't even close our borders. And we're going to give the state the power to have people basically commit suicide. That is open to so much abuse. Coercive control, saying to your dying old little mummy, do you know what? I need some extra money, and she could hang on another 8 months, another 2 years. Convince her that her grandchildren are going to go without if you stay that much longer. The mentally ill, the manic depressives. And at the moment they're saying it won't cover any of that. Yeah, it won't
Of course
today.
it won't. Yeah,
But
initially.
tomorrow,
Yeah.
when you get amendments to the law and other people then start campaigning for it. Good example would be, do you remember the French terrorist attack? Was it the Bataclan nightclub?
Yes.
Machine guns and stuff like that.
Was it back at Balakat? I can't remember what it was. Yeah,
It was something like that.
Yeah.
At that time, there was a woman, a very young woman there, saw her friends killed.
Yes.
She's from Belgium.
You and I have discussed this.
Yeah, we have.
It's an interesting story. Go and carry on.
So her friends die. She becomes a manic depressive. What she's seen, she ends up ending her own life by going to a euthanasia clinic. So the people who shot up that nightclub and all that, most of them survived. They're in jail.
Yeah, they were Islamic jihadists.
One of the survivors, we allowed her to kill herself.
Yes.
Because of that.
Yeah.
This isn't the world I want to live in.
Yeah, it's not a world I want to live in either.
Yeah.
That story, and I can't remember the girl's name.
Yeah.
She had quite an unusual name. She was 21 when she died. 21-year-old, a young girl. And it was endorsed by the state and endorsed by her parents as well. You know, it wasn't like, why don't you just let's give her a bit longer to try. Because she said she wanted to die. And you're right, that's not a world I want to live in.
Yeah.
That's a horrific thing.
Have you seen what's been going on in Canada with theirs?
Well, I'm aware of it, but I don't know the detail. Go on.
They've been killing all sorts of people in Canada. Old people, homeless people have been signing up, and drug users ending their own lives on this.
Yeah.
It's wide open to abuse by a state that has a track record of running everything poorly.
Yeah.
Look at the postmaster scandal.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people sent to jail and covered up, and we're going to give them a power life and death on sick people.
You're right. Apart from the fact in my view, it's morally reprehensible to do this. We're asking a state that can't control anything to manage and control and stop that from being abused, more importantly.
I think if you want to end your life, I think you should end your life.
Yeah.
You shouldn't involve anybody else. There's lots of ways for you to end your life.
I know how I'm going to do mine. I'm going to drive to Wales.
Yeah.
I'll be old by then, of course.
Yeah.
I'll be your age. I'll drive to Wales, and I'll have a small pair of swimming trunks on.
Yeah.
And I'll just walk into the sea and start swimming.
Yeah.
And I'll keep swimming, and I'll keep swimming until I'm absolutely exhausted. Yeah. And then I can't come back, basically. Yeah. So even if I try and come back, I'll be too knackered and old to swim back, and I'll drown.
Knowing your luck, when you do that, there'll be a migrant boat coming over from Ireland who pick you up and take you across. They all win medals for saving you, and you're there going, back to square bloody one.
No, they'll drag me semi-conscious onto the shore and say, this one hasn't got a passport either.
No, and then you get a hotel.
So that would be hilarious. But I think going back to the point, the euthanasia thing, for me, is just this final tool to destroy the old people in this country. And I think it's interesting, you and I talked about this a few weeks ago. One of the videos you put out had a lot of views, over 100,000 views. But there was an article in the Telegraph the other week saying exactly what we were talking about. That they've got it, this government have got it in for old people, basically. So I think it's...
Lots of old people have got expensive houses now because they bought them decades ago. House prices have shot up, and they've got houses now worth $500,000, a couple of million. And it's not that much of a jump to understand that some of their children will be nasty pieces of work. Yeah. And they're going, I could get my hands on £1.5 million once he's dead or she's dead. That doesn't take much persuasion for an old person who's beginning to lose it and stuff like that. It's just the optics of this. And again, like old communists and like old tyrants, they're selling this on the belief that we're doing it to help you. We're doing it so you don't feel pain, at the end of your life. We're doing it for you. Just like abortion. We're murdering you.
For you. Yeah, we're murdering children for you.
Yes.
I'm still undecided on abortion, by the way.
You should talk about that one.
Yeah, I know. You keep saying that because I need you to persuade me or give me your argument, because I'm kind of flipping from side to side on that. the point I was going, what was I going to say about the old people? I can't remember what it is now. So moving on with Labour.
Yeah.
Moving on with Labour, and in terms of the scandals as well, Lord Ali, who we now know and love.
Yeah.
There's another story which again, I don't know if people have heard, gave 62,000 quid to Baroness Udin. Have you heard this story?
Yes.
So Baroness Udin basically had claimed expenses in the value of about 120 odd thousand quid, illegally or incorrectly, or they weren't valid expenses, but taxpayer expenses basically, and she was found guilty and had to repay it. She didn't have the full money; she spent it on whatever, and so he gave her 62 grand to help her pay the fine. But what's more stinking than that, because this is a Labour peer, by the way. Baroness Udin, the Labour peer. Starmer was the head of the CPS at the time, and he decided he would not pursue fraud charges against her. Now, that stinks to high heaven to me, but why is nobody discussing that situation? It's an even worse one than some of the other ones, that one, as far as I'm concerned.
That Lord Ali, he's an ATM for the Labour Party. That's all he is, an ATM for the Labour Party. And it's got to a stage now where he must want something. It keeps coming out every couple of days. Someone else is bought off, someone else is bought. He's being investigated himself now by the Lord's Parliamentary Standards Committee because he's not declared lots of this himself. He's just a walking ATM for the Labour Party. What's he getting out of this?
Well, exactly. He's got to be all these people have got to be compromised by this. They've got to be. But nobody seems to be.
I think the party itself is compromised by this because he's got his fingers
Yeah.
in all of them.
Yeah, he's a grubby little man. Starmer clearly understanding that his reputation wasn't good. He's less popular now than Rishi Sunak. All that, decided to do something, to try and appease the British public and to boost, as he's put it, global security. So he's obviously thinking, I know this will win them round. Okay, I'll boost global security. Everybody will think I'm an absolute saint. So he gave away the Chagos Islands that have been British territories for centuries to Mauritius.
Yeah.
So.
When you think this party, this government can't get any worse, they start giving away British territory.
Yes.
These
British sovereign territory.
These islands never ever belonged to Mauritius. Never ever. So it's not like we're giving them back. They never owned them. I don't think there was a country called Mauritius when we took these islands. If I was living in the Falklands and Gibraltar and all these other islands around the world, I'd be worried.
Yeah. Well, I think they are, and I think, of course, so he's done this, and nobody. Genuinely, Nick, nobody understands why he has done this.
Because Mauritius are extremely friendly with China.
Yes, correct.
So they're not on our side.
Yeah.
They're more on China's side. The bases we built on there are state of the art.
Yeah.
And those bases in the middle of the Indian Ocean, those bases police the whole ocean.
Yeah.
And for China to get oil that it desperately needs, oil has to come from the Middle East through the Indian Ocean. So if there's ever a war, having those islands owned by Britain and our bases and our American friends there, we stop China getting oil.
They're of massive strategic importance.
Massive.
And he's just done this. But he's done it without a vote, without a discussion, without a debate, without any. It's just happened.
First of all, a couple of years ago, it was the Tories who started these discussions, right?
The
usual.
Party,
So it's. Then they stopped them, but they started them and then stopped them. And what most people don't understand is in this deal, giving Mauritius these islands, we're also going to give them money every year. So we give these islands away, and now we're going to rent the bases off them for 100 years, and we're going to pay hundreds of millions every year to use the land that we owned last week.
And this is what's starting to piss me off more and more: the money that is being pissed away by our government on a daily basis, and this is just adding to it, isn't it? It'll be hundreds of millions of pounds, I'm guessing, that will be going there.
And the people who live on those islands don't want to be part of their vicious.
Yes.
And want to remain a British
They want to
territory.
remain British citizens.
They've been given no say on this as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've just given them away as like cattle.
Yeah.
Parliament's not had a say. The British people have not had a say. The people of the Chagos Islands have not had a say. Our friends around the world, our military comrades around the world have not had a say.
Yeah.
And we're going, let's give these islands to that country who's a really good friend of our number one threat in the world.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any
I
sense.
think he's done it for ideological reasons. I think it was an opportunity for him to... He'll use this as a bit of an apology for the British Empire. We shouldn't own these islands because we never should have been a colonial power in the first place. Here's an opportunity to give them away. And if I get opportunity to give other things away, I'll give them away because we never should have an empire. We're evil. And it's our way, the Labour Party, to apologise.
But they make what I don't get, Nick, is they're making these decisions in a vacuum, aren't they? They're making these decisions without gauging public opinion, without talking to anybody else. Crazy things like the winter fuel, crazy things like this. It's almost like they're getting pissed in Islington on a Saturday night. The top, him and his little friends or whatever. I know what would be great. Let's to show them that we're not racist. Let's give back the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. Yeah. They'll think we're fantastic, won't they? And it's like they're not taking any counsel outside of themselves for these. It's just insanity. It doesn't make any sense.
How they can do this without Parliament, I don't know. How any government can give away British territories without the monarch signing... Well, the monarch will have to sign off for it eventually. Yeah. But without consultation with the monarch, without Parliament, without the people we vote for. Yeah. This is a huge shock that they can do this.
Is Parliament sitting at the moment?
Has it come back this week?
I don't know.
Next week?
I'm not conscious that I'm sitting... I mean, I don't watch the BBC anymore, so I don't know. But I'm not conscious of seeing Starmer or his cronies being taken to task by anybody in Parliament, unless I'm missing something. I don't know.
If they're not back, then they'll be back any day now.
Right. Now, so as you say, to add insult to injury...
I think they are back. I've seen Nigel Farage stand up in Parliament talking about the Chagos Islands.
Right, have he?
It was a picture. So unless they use an old picture of him, because he's been talking about it somewhere else, I don't know, but it could be back.
So to add insult to injury on this, I think Starmer, I've not seen the interview myself, but I think Starmer was asked, can you guarantee that the Falklands and Gibraltar won't be handed back? He didn't.
He wouldn't answer it, no.
Yeah. So what the hell's going on there then?
That's an easy question to answer.
Yeah, just say...
If you mean it.
Yeah, just say no. It's not as they say. But so what is he thinking? So he's now thinking of giving back the Falklands. Now thinking of giving back Gibraltar. Nobody in Gibraltar wants to be part of Spain. I can get, and nobody in the Falklands.
The last referendum they had in Gibraltar, was it 98% voted to remain British? So that's how high it is. Yeah. And Falklands is like 100%.
Yeah, it's kind of what. It's almost. Is he just thinking, I'm just going to do this stuff because I can?
Because I can. And I'm an anti-colonialist. We shouldn't own these places in the first place. And if I want to go back into Europe and I give away Gibraltar back to the Spanish, they're going to let us back in, you know.
Oh my God. It's just horrific that one of our listeners, or it might have been on another website I was reading, said that as a result of giving away the Chagos Islands, Starmer's been given a free holiday home there. So his kid can paddle without stress, which I thought was So that's the insanity. And the final thing on this is, when is this story going to break, Nick? The story that you've risked imprisonment to reveal. Right, what is happening?
The latest update now from what's her name? That blonde woman that I blamed last.
Isabel Oakeshott.
Isabel Oakeshott on Talk TV. I watched her again the other day. So if I go down, she goes down. She's
going with you. Yeah.
And I'm going to identify as a woman, and we're going to Sarah Shell.
If that happens, she might identify as a man. So
yeah, she would.
I can imagine you with in a long blonde wig.
There we go. Thank you.
What was the guy called in?
Corby Betty.
What was the guy called in Scotland who got walking along with an erection and a blonde wig? Yeah.
So what's happening now is the story's there. There's a couple of newspapers waiting to print it, and they're just waiting to cross the line on convincing their solicitors it's in the public interest. That's all they're waiting
Oh, really?
for.
So it's nearly, yeah.
It's nearly there. So I believe
When did
now,
you hear this?
Weekend.
All right. Okay.
Even end of last week. So this isn't just, this
Right.
is like at least a week
Yeah,
they've been
yeah.
talking about this. So they don't clarify the point, but what they say now is we have a birth certificate and a name, and it's connected to Keir Starmer's family structure.
Right.
So how it looks now, based on that, my interpretation and my guesswork, so I don't know, but my guesswork is it looks like he's got a child outside his marriage. Was it her or was it someone else? It was someone else on TV. It was Dan Wooten saying that he was in Lord Ali's flat for the GCSEs because he'd been kicked out of the family home. So it looks like it's all about that. That's what it looks like.
And is there a name for this alleged woman? And is there an alleged name for this woman that you can give, that you can break to our...
There's a rumour of a name, but I don't want to say the name. But
Can't you just say allegedly it's
Baroness
Baroness somebody?
To be fair, I can't even think I remember her name now, but it is a Labour MP or someone in the House of Lords. When I saw the picture, was like, I've seen her face on TV.
People have said it actually looks like Keir Starmer in a wig to me.
Yeah. Without sounding unkind, if this is a new-ish baby, then she doesn't look young enough to carry. So it wouldn't surprise me if this...
What are you saying, Nick?
She looks like an old hag, and her insides don't work anymore. That's what she looks like.
You mean she's past childbearing age, possibly?
That's a lot more diplomatic. Thank you. I'll use that from now.
Yeah, rather than saying she's an old
So
hag.
if the kid is 10, 15 years old, yes. If the kid has just been born this year, then maybe not. So it looks like it's going to be... So what they're trying to do now is prove it's in the national interest. So if they're looking to see if he's lied, because if he's lied, then that's the public interest to dispel that lie.
Yeah.
And if they can bring all that in, they'll bring it all in. So they try and get the moment to prove that he was kicked out of the family home. That's why it was at Lord Ali's flat, not about GCSEs.
So that's the lie.
If they can prove that, then everything else comes out.
Yeah.
Because that all backs that dismisses the lie.
I think that could... If that's the case, that would be the lie, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Trying to use his son as cover.
Yeah.
And maybe his son was working there, but only because he was living there at the time,
Yeah.
because he'd been kicked out.
So...
And they'll also explain the conferences he did with the pictures behind him, because perhaps he'd been booted out of the family home at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But again, we don't know what these are rumours or not, but it seems that everybody knows it now.
I'm just surprised it hasn't broken.
I'm surprised. I think it hasn't broken yet because the press want to break it because that's how they earn their money on stories. So I think they're making sure no one else talks about it in their circles. If they wanted to break it...
Oh, is that why it's gone quiet, do you think?
Yeah, because if
so did they have an unspoken agreement? Don't talk about this until we're going to release it surely or something?
No, I think they've told all their staff members. I think they've kept it so tight that no one else in the news organisation knows, because they don't want people leaking it, getting out to the internet. Then everybody knows, and then they can release it. But it's not breaking news anymore, and no one's going to buy all these newspapers because it's about earning money. So I think they're keeping it really tight, not releasing anything to anybody because they're waiting to get it over the line, and they can run with it then and sell newspapers and clickbait online and earn money out of that.
Very interesting.
So it will come out. Has to come out very soon. This can't keep going on because this story will not die.
And don't forget, we broke it here first, didn't we?
Read it.
I want to move on to one of your favourite subjects in a minute, but I just want to give a couple of quotes here. We talk a lot about free speech, and we talk about free speech in this country, and we think I believe it doesn't really exist that much anymore here now.
Yeah.
But America's quite good at this stuff as well. And I'm just going to read a quote out here and just wonder if you know who said this. This is in the middle of a speech to a group of people. But look, if people only go to one source, and the source they go to is sick, and has an agenda, and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So what we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern, by hopefully winning enough votes. You're then free to be able to implement change. So what that person is saying is basically free speech allows people to go and read things that may not be correct. And he wants to say, if we win the power, we can change it and stamp it out, basically. And he's talking about stamping out the First Amendment, which is the right to free speech, isn't it? The First Amendment.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
So until you said he, I was going to say Kamala Harris. But once you said he, it's like, so is it her VP?
No, good guess, but it's not her VP. It's John Kerry. I'm telling you now.
Oh, John Kerry. I never would have got John Kerry. I didn't know he was still around.
Yeah. This one is not a politician, but I think you might guess this one. Somebody who's not a politician, but he's known to be very active in political circles. A very prominent American. We should have free speech, but if you're inciting violence, if you're causing people not to take vaccines, where are the boundaries? Even the US should have rules. And then if you have rules, what is it? So who said that? Not a politician. Very prominent.
Actor, is it?
No. Businessman.
Soros?
Good guess. Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. So, what you need to understand is, in the First Amendment, you can't incite violence. That is illegal in America.
Yeah.
And every sensible person who supports free speech will give away that one point. We can't have people inciting violence. But everything else, telling people not to take vaccines. Well, if I believe vaccines are bad for you, I should be able to tell you not to take them.
Correct.
Doesn't mean I'm right.
Yeah.
You then, or someone else then, has the right to challenge me or to tell you the opposite. That's how freedom of speech works.
Yeah.
But these people, and I go back to what I've said many, many times on this podcast, these people think they're better than us. These people think they're more intelligent and only they understand how the world works. And if we gave them the power and they ruled the world, we'd all be happier. That's really what they believe. That they're that amazing.
And their level of stupidity is such that what they don't think about, and I think you made this example quite a lot, what they don't think about is what happens after I'm gone. What happens? So I'm John Kerry. I'm a brilliant guy. I know exactly what, as you and I know what the world needs, but John Kerry does as well. But so he gets these rules changed, stops free speech, then he drops dead because he's a knackered old bloke anyway. And then who comes next?
Yeah. Who now has all this power. We have less rights.
Yeah.
They've taken away the American First Amendment of free speech. They've taken away everyone's guns. No more Second Amendment. And it's like, we walked right into this, didn't we? and now we're Soviet Russia. Now we're China.
Yeah.
We used to be the home of the free.
Yeah.
Well, we're not anymore.
Yeah.
You can't have safety and freedom. It's a balance between both of them.
I'm going to challenge you here now because you said something at the beginning of this section where you said you can't incite violence in the First Amendment. And I think you and I have talked about this before about when we talk about what happened with the Enough is Enough protests, people being arrested, that lady in Cheshire being arrested for saying burn the mosque down. Why can't free speech include the right to incite violence?
Because it generates violence. Now, the argument could be her saying that wasn't inciting violence. You could argue that nobody was listening to her. She didn't mean it. There was no intent. So in law, we have something called intent, meaning you intended to do that. That's the difference between murder and manslaughter. Murder is you had intent. You went to murder that person. Manslaughter means it was basically can be an accident The man died, but you didn't mean for him to die. That's manslaughter. So we could look at her saying burn down the mosque and look at that and go, that really wasn't incitement, but it may have broke these other laws, or it may have broke no laws. Because what's the difference between saying burn down those mosques or hey, burn down the mosques? One can be a joke.
One is a tone. Yeah.
One's a tone. One is repeating maybe what you've heard of someone else say. So if saying the words burn down the mosque, how does a reporter report what that person said?
Yeah.
Because they've now just said burn down the mosque. So there's nuance there. But having people actively with intent in any society promoting violence, inciting violence, is a step too far, because then we will live in a violent society. But everything else really should be on the table.
I'm gonna, when you're in charge of the country and I'm your Home Secretary,
Yeah.
hopefully, I'll be arguing with you, because I'll be saying, look, Nick, I think inciting violence, making racist comments should be not against the law. If people want to do it, I think it should be do it, and I think society will control those people. I think society will if somebody comes on the tube and starts saying, "Oh, you black bastard," or whatever it might be, Paki, or whatever it might be, I think society will, a good society will stop those people. So I would get rid of all the hate law.
Oh, I would.
Stuff, and I'd get rid of all the inciting to violence and all that crap as well. I'd say people want to do it, but society, I'm expecting you put the onus on society, don't you? I'll say society, you control those guys. I'll give you the freedom, but you control those people. I
agree, apart from inciting violence. So inciting violence would be getting on the tube saying to black people, why don't you guys come with me now, and I want you to stab that Chinese guy. That's inciting violence. Calling someone an insult, any of those words is not inciting violence. It's an insult. So we should be able to insult each other, and society will control that themselves through societal norms and things like that. But actually telling people to commit violence, I still think that's a step too far.
Yeah, but I think what you're describing there is potentially a violent act, or something that will become a violent act.
Yes.
So I think when it becomes a violent act, that's when you police it. Because otherwise, you're back in Minority Report, aren't you?
No, because if you're inciting violence means you are actively, with intent, trying to get people to commit violence. That's incitement of violence. So not having an argument, not calling people names, not cracking jokes.
Yeah, but you might go up to some black and I'm not quite sure what the animus between the blacks and the Chinese are. So it's obviously something you've cooked up. But
dumplings.
Oh, is it about
Jamaicans think they invented dumplings, and the Chinese think they invented.
Is it some sort of dumpling battle?
Dumpling wars.
Dumpling wars going on. I didn't realise. But if you're a bit of a nutter and you just wander onto the tube and say to some black guys, let's go and kill some they'll just go, piss off, mate.
No.
They're not going to take it seriously. So he shouldn't be arrested because he's a bit of an idiot saying that.
So again, is that incitement to violence, or is that a mentally ill man? Has to be intent. Did that mentally ill man really want those people to stab him? Because if they did, then that's intent.
In his crazy mind, he did.
Well, in which case, that's intent.
Yes. Oh, right. But he's mentally ill.
That might be mitigating circumstances.
But the guys have dismissed him and said, go away, don't talk rubbish. Yeah. We'll sort the dumpling thing out ourselves. Yeah. We don't need you to
So, what happens when he engages people with the incitement to violence who then go, oh, yeah.
Well, then they go and commit violence and they're arrested for that.
Yeah.
There's just some more police on the streets. So in my brave new world, proportional representation, sacking of people
civil servants.
In civil servants with no employment rights, and the abolishment of all non-free speech, all limitations on free speech. That's my brave new world.
Right.
Does that sound attractive, viewers? No? Okay. So I think the point I was just trying to make there is that free speech is under attack constantly. And we have very, very major figures, even in America, trying to...
Always has been.
Yeah.
But we've always been good at fighting back.
Yeah.
The last couple of decades, we've lost that ability to fight back.
Yeah.
And we have lost large parts of our right to free speech because we just look around us. Hate crimes is an attack on free speech. Non-crime hate incidents attacks free speech. Cancel culture attacks free speech. Scared of losing your job. Policing of the internet. Archaeology online, looking what you said 15 years ago when you were 15 years old and you losing your job now at 30 years old because you said something as a kid. All these things are attack on free speech. Absolutely.
I was going to move on to one of your favourite areas in a sec, but while we were talking that, something just, I keep meaning to raise this and ask the question if you could maybe clarify. Talking on free speech is relevant here. The guy who said slit their throats in a crowd, an anti-fascist or anti-white right foot, what's happened to him?
Arrested, charged, bailed. I believe his court day, he then pleaded not guilty in court several weeks later. He wasn't locked up. And he now has a court date, I believe, in January.
So why wasn't he remanded like all the... They are absolute bastards.
Two-tier.
And then in connection with that, 2 high-profile cases, I've heard nothing.
Right.
The Manchester airport attackers.
Yes.
And, of course, the Rwandan killer of those little girls.
Rwandan killer of those little girls, you're completely correct. It is dead. The press don't want to report it anyway because it's the wrong narrative. They'll talk about it when he's in court, which will probably be next year sometime. And then we'll find more about them. The Manchester airport, have you heard what reform are going to do?
Brilliant.
I think it's a great PR stunt.
Yeah. Maybe you could tell our listeners.
So Reform UK have announced that they're crowdfunding a private prosecution of those 2 Asian guys from Rochdale who attacked the police, and they're going to use a private prosecution to get him to court and prosecute him.
Fantastic.
Yeah, because the CPS seem to be doing nothing with it.
Have the CPS actually said what they are doing?
No, because the 2 men haven't even been charged yet. They were arrested and bailed, but they've not been charged.
This is just outrageous, isn't it? And this is a bit I don't get. We're seeing this stuff. This is in broad daylight now, isn't it? This stuff is happening.
This one, like I say, on video.
Yeah.
On video.
Yeah.
No, we can see what happened. We can see what they did. We don't know the build up to it. We don't know all the facts. We don't know about provocation. We don't know what the officers said to them. So, other things may come out. But we've seen the video. And now we need answers. But these people have not even been charged.
It's scandalous.
Absolutely.
This is outrageous. And this is why I don't understand why the people are not on the streets now. Because this stuff is happening in front of our eyes now. It's not even hidden anymore. It's in plain sight. Onto your favourite subject, which is race baiting, and particularly Black History Month, which begins this month, I think.
Last week.
Last week.
Yeah, we're in the middle now of Black History Month.
I know you really look forward to it every year, Nick, and I think you always write an article about it.
It's the same article, I just tweak it a bit, then republish it, because it's relevant.
So it's a really good article, actually. I would recommend whether you can attach it as a link to this section, I don't know. I think that there is one positive on the Black History Month, and it gives us a break from Pride Month, because every other bloody month is Pride Month, and for some reason they have a break to stick Black History Month on us, basically. And Black History Month, I think, or I understand, is a celebration in the UK of black people's contribution to this country and everything else, and we have to. I don't think we have do we have a White History Month by any chance? Right. So
We don't have a brown history month, we don't have a yellow history month.
do we have a Scottish History Month
No.
or a Welsh History Month
No.
where it's to celebrate what they've done for England and Britain? No. But we for some reason we have to have a special month to celebrate.
It's because this is an import, like most bad ideas. This has been imported from America.
Oh, has it?
So America's been having Black History Month now for decades.
Right.
And I first heard about Black History Month maybe 10, 15 years ago here. But every year it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And this year's even bigger.
And it's absolute shit as far as I can see. I mean, the first thing I saw when I started researching this was that Charles Ehikoya, who's who's the chair of the Metropolitan Black Police Association, is facing the sack over racist WhatsApps. That's the first thing I saw coming out there, which is a real good advert for...
Well, let me comment on this, as in, if this is about racist WhatsApp messages, which it is, they have those messages.
Yes.
So for them to arrest him, suspend him, that means they've looked at the messages, which means this is a done deal.
Yes, but we're not allowed to see them, are we?
Not at the moment, because
I don't think we'll ever see them.
We will when it gets to court. So they're not going to show the evidence yet, because if he takes this all the way to court and gets a jury trial, if you release the evidence, that's interfering with the case. So they won't release this in case he takes it all the way to a jury trial to protect his job.
All right. Okay. Anyway, I thought it was a good start.
Yep.
And then our glorious London leader, Sadiq Khan, has obviously leapt straight out to celebrate.
Of course
this.
he has.
And his statement was, I was a bit cheeky, probably a bit racist actually. So he said, "To every black Londoner, past and present, thank you for stabbing." I mean, and I put stabbing and I crossed it out. Thank you for shaping our city. So, to every black Londoner, past and present, thank you for shaping our city. Because I didn't realise London was shaped and created and, past and present by black people. Nobody's ever told me that before.
No immigrant community over the last 100 years has shaped London, they have, because it is turning into a shithole. but no immigrants came here to improve the UK. I had this conversation lots of time. My dad came here not to improve the UK. He came here for a better life. He came here because of a richer country. That's what immigrants come for. They didn't build London. They didn't build any of the infrastructure. Well, my dad worked on the motorways, with a pick and a shovel. But they came here for a better life. And I wrote my article to dispel some of the myths, some of the things that we now think are true. Have you heard of someone called Mary Seacole?
Yes, I've got her written down actually, but go on, talk me through it.
Well, I've
got a few others to test you on in a minute.
They almost changed my secondary school to Mary Seacole. It was a failing school, and like you do with a failing project, failing school, rebrand it. Let's get rid of the old name, because everyone knows that's a crap school. Let's call it something new, and everything would improve.
I didn't know they were into all this black stuff in the 1940s, but that's interesting to know.
Well,
So they decided to change the name. Sorry.
Well, they were going to, and they gave all the kids a vote, and we all said no.
Really?
So
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well done.
They never gave us a vote again. A bit like that ultimate vote face. They give you a vote once, and if you vote wrong, they never give you a vote.
If they don't
again.
like it, it's like,
exactly. So Mary Seacole was, and I believed this at the time at school.
How they brainwash these poor little kids all
and
the time,
this is the mid-80s, and we got told she was a nurse in the Crimea, just like Florence Nightingale, except she's been erased from history because she was black. And at school, you take it all at face value. Oh, okay. And then a few years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, there's a history channel called History Debunked with Simon Webb.
Is he the guy? He's an old guy. Yeah, I think you've interviewed him.
I have.
Yeah.
And I'm going to interview him again.
I like him.
Next month.
I like him.
Really good. So
what's his background? Has he actually got any qualifications or such? Or is he just a kind of...
No, he's worked in schools and colleges and stuff like that. He's wrote about 30 books. I like
him a lot. He's got a really nice manner about him. He's some interesting.
Very knowledgeable. So he did a 5-minute video on her, and I watched it and went. First time I'd heard him as well. I didn't know who he was at the time 5 years ago, and I went. He's either blown my mind, or he's a racist nutcase. So it's easy now with the internet. I googled Mary Seacole and did a bit of research, and it turns out it was completely right. She wasn't
fabricated.
Fabricated. She wasn't a nurse. She was a businesswoman who came from South America, Latin America to the UK to complain that her shares in a gold mine had gone bump or stolen. She then went to the Crimea to make money. She ran some hotels and canteens dealing with the army officers, and she went to the battlefields 3 times at the end of the battle to sell drinks and sandwiches.
Make a bit of money.
And she wrote a book on it. So you read her book, doesn't call herself a nurse, it's all a load of rubbish. And
she never was a nurse. She never applied to be a nurse, because one of the arguments is, Florence Nightingale was jealous, so she didn't let her become a nurse. She never even applied to be a nurse.
I can't remember that bit.
Yeah, that's the way they've tried to pervert history.
Yeah.
Florence Nightingale was jealous because she was a black, very successful.
She was a businesswoman.
Yeah,
and that's a great profession to be in.
Yeah,
she wasn't on benefits. She was a self-made businesswoman who went to different countries to make money and was successful. So good for her. But she wasn't a nurse.
But what is sickening, Nick, about that, Nick, is you as a little kid. You as a little kid in your shorts at school were being brainwashed by these idiots telling you this bollocks and trying to persuade you based on lies to rename your school the Mary Seacole School. It's scandalous.
Yeah. And I'm sure the teachers all believed it as well.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier now we've got the internet. It's harder to be fooled now because we have the internet. Another one from Black History Month.
What was the school actually renamed? The Tommy Robinson School?
No, they kept it at the same name. So it was called Central High School for Boys.
That's a good name. That's a good English...
Yeah, but it was failing. You said to anybody in the 70s and 80s, Central High School for Boys, and the reaction would be, Jesus, I'm not sending my child there. So they wanted to rebrand it.
I see.
That's what they were doing. Not improve it, just rebrand it.
Just rebrand it, not actually do the work.
Yeah, exactly. That's too hard.
Yeah.
That's too hard. So another myth from Black History Month will be the Black Roman Emperors.
Yes. Particularly Emperor Septimus.
Yeah. So, wow, a Black Roman Emperor. So what happens in Black History Month? It's called Black History Month. It's not called African History Month. Because because Black history is sub-Saharan and the Caribbean.
Yes.
That's where black people live. Once you go north of Sahara, they're not black.
Yes.
They're African still, but they're not black.
Yes.
So this Roman emperor was African. He was born in Libya or Tunisia. But those days, North Africa was populated by Europeans.
Yes.
They were called from what I can remember now, the Berbers.
Yes.
And the Berbers were of European heritage.
Yes.
They were fair-skinned, blue eyes and things like that. So this Roman emperor was born there and technically was an African.
Yes.
But he wasn't a black African and he wasn't black. But
his parents were, one was Roman and the other one was a Greek or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
They were completely European. He was completely European.
Yeah. And it was European all the way up to the 7th century when what happened?
Muslims.
Muslim invasion.
Yeah.
And then they went from being Europeans to being Arabs.
Yes.
That's why we have Arabs now in North Africa. Up to the 700s, it was Christians.
Oh, so
Europeans.
the look of the North Africans comes from the Muslim invasion.
Yeah.
Then, because they've got a particular look about them, haven't they? They don't look black African, sub-Saharan.
Yeah,
They're kind of curly hair, light curly hair, and kind of brown, but quite European features.
So some of that will be inbreeding.
Mo Salah.
Yeah. So
Mo Salah doesn't look African, does he?
I can't remember.
He's Egyptian.
Right.
He plays for Liverpool.
Yeah.
So he's a very poor striker.
Yeah. So
recently had a hair transplant.
So when we look
not that I like to slag off Liverpool in any way.
When you look at Egypt for the last, before the fall of the pharaohs, all the last few pharaohs were all Greeks.
Correct.
Cleopatra was Greek.
Correct. She married Mark Antony, who was Roman.
Yeah. So all that was European until the invasion. We also have in North Africa the Moors. So the Moors were basically a mixture of Spanish, Berbers and Arabs. So that's who the Moors were. They were all interbred. And then, so It's the mixture, the mix-up African and black. So there's also Black History Month that we had a black queen in this country. Did you know that?
Bollocks.
Yeah, black queen, the wife of, can't remember the king now. And they've traced her ancestors back, and her ancestors, one of her ancestors had a mistress who was a Berber. I've just said Berbers weren't black. Berbers were Europeans.
So even when there is a link, it's not actually.
It's not linked back to black. It's linked back to Africa.
Yeah. But what's pathetic is they're casting around like this, desperately trying to find examples. But as you say, I mean, you wrote a really good article about this, didn't you? I don't know whether you're going to, as I say, attach it to this section. You wrote a really good article about this. Black people have lots of other things to be proud of.
Yes.
Why not celebrate those rather than make stuff up?
Be proud. Be black. Be truthful.
I like that. That's your catchphrase. The reason I was going to talk about this is because this chap you mentioned just now, the one who does these articles, you've interviewed
Simon
Webb. He was talking about a program on that grubby media platform called the BBC, called Horrible Histories. So when my kids were young, they used to watch Horrible Histories, and it was really good. Really good information. We get information across to kids.
You think it's educational?
Yeah. I think then it was.
Right.
I think it was. But it's become captured and has become very, very woke. And they a few of these items that you mentioned, they've raised or whatever. But here's some other ones, and I don't know if you're aware or you can dispel what this Horrible Histories put forward the idea that Africans built Stonehenge.
A lot of rubbish. I know. But people believe that now. People believe
But why would they even say that?
Because if you look at Africa, this will sound very disparaging now against black culture in Africa. You look at Africa, they built nothing.
God.
They built absolutely nothing. Didn't have the technology,
No.
the infrastructure, the culture to build anything. They were living in mud huts when we turned up in the 16th, 17th century. And if it wasn't for us colonising parts of it, they were living in mud huts now. There's only one stonework in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, and that's the great Zimbabwe. It's a stone structure in Zimbabwe, and it's basically an impressive cylinder of rocks. No inside to it. It just goes up like that, and there's no mortar being used. It's all and it goes up, and that's it. That's the only stone structure they've ever built in Africa before sub-Saharan Africa. So they're trying to claim things as if blacks were all over the world before white people turned up. This is very similar to what the Soviets did and communists do, all about rewriting history to make history fit how you want it to be. And they've been doing it for decades now. You go online, if you Google black inventions, Google that. They invented everything. They invented light bulbs. They invented light bulbs, they invented security systems, they invented the car, the automobile, the jet engine, and the telephone.
Oh, Frank Whittle didn't invent it.
No, they invented everything. But then a white person stole the idea.
Oh, I see. So the guy who invented the telephone was a Scottishman, was it? What's it called?
Graham Alexander Bell.
Graham Alexander Bell. He invented it in Scotland. So there was a black guy in Scotland who'd actually invented it before him.
No, there was a black man in Africa. Who do you think Alexander Graham Bell phoned up? He phoned up the black guy in Africa when I've invented one now, mate.
He rang him and said, "Can you tell me how you do it?"
Yeah. Just nutcases spewing out this rubbish. And because we are an uneducated people, because our education system's poor, most people just take it at face value.
Kids are believing it.
Why wouldn't you take it at face value?
Yeah, well,
I did.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Yeah, you're right. I mean, that was happening in the 80s.
Yes.
They were pumping this bullshit into you in the 80s. So another one is the Cheddar Man, who was found in a gorge.
Yep.
The Cheddar Gorge 10,000 years ago. Apparently he was black. Did you know that?
That's because over time the pigmentation in his skin because he's like shriveled up.
Yes.
He's based. I think he was found in a bog or something, and he's got black skin.
Because it's gone black over time.
Over time in the bog, but they've DNA'd him, and his DNA came from that local area. They DNA'd other local people, and they found someone who's related to him, who was half a mile down the road.
Really?
One of his relatives.
And they went up to that person and said, "We've got news for you. You're black."
And he went, "Yeah, man, I knows it." So, completely, not only just European, but local to Cheddar, because his relatives are still living in the area.
Got his DNA in local white people.
They did another one. The what was she called? Maidenstow. They found another body, female, and this is quite racist. This bit. People looked at the bones, the skull, and said, "Yep, she's black African. I can tell by the shape of the skull."
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can't tell from what I believe the shape of the skull.
All right.
So then everyone was excited. The first black person we found in the UK. This is 5,000 years old or 3,000, whatever it was. It's thousands of years old. We've now found the first black person in England. Everybody ran with it. National Press Stories ran with it. It's still on the BBC articles. You can still Google now. First black person found in the UK. This proves all the theories. And then DNA comes along, doesn't it? So then they test the DNA. DNA says she was born and raised in that local area, but her ancestry, she's got some ancestry from Cyprus.
Oh, right, okay.
That was it.
Right.
Local, born, because they can tell by your bones where you're born, about the amount of minerals, because it reflects the area you're in and the water you've drank and stuff like that. So they know she's a local person, born there, raised all her life, but some of her DNA comes from Cyprus. Nothing to do with Africa. But again, when people are
so why are they so desperate to have black people in England?
Because then black people then can claim, well, that's why we're here. We were here before you. And all your achievements are really our achievements, aren't they? I think this is an inferiority complex from black people.
Yeah.
I think they look at what their race has achieved, their culture has achieved, and it's obvious to look west and go, Jesus, they've done better than us.
Yeah.
It must be unfair.
Yeah.
They must have persecuted us. They must have stole our ideas. Because the other answer is, they're better than us. And I'm not willing to go down that path that they're better than us. It must be everything else. I think they've got a big chip on their shoulder.
Yeah. I suspect it's a small minority who are promoting this stuff. But I mean, I'm half Indian, and Indians have achieved nothing. But I've embraced that fully. I'm happy with that.
You invented zero.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, the Indians invented
I'll
zero.
embrace that.
Yeah.
There's no Indians in the Premier League footballers.
No.
But, I'll embrace that. Clearly, we're not very good at football or very athletic.
But do you know why there's no... Oh, I'll tell a racist joke. I will.
Yeah,
do you know why there's no Indians in the Premier League? Because every time they take a corner, they build a shop on it.
That's quite good. I thought you were going to try and twist the joke. That's a specific joke, isn't it?
Yeah. That's an old joke.
That's a good one. I've not heard that one. That's brilliant. I'll tell my kids that one. That's great. But I always joke with the kids. You've got this massive genetic disadvantage to overcome with your quarter Indian. So you've got to try and fight it over. You should embrace it, shouldn't you? Yeah. If your race has not done particularly much stuff, just like we're pretty crap.
Yeah,
it takes the pressure off you, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah.
Whereas for a white person, the things that white people have achieved, you're under pressure on day one, aren't you?
Yeah.
To do something.
I think we need to look at different races, different cultures over a long period of time, because it just happens to be at this moment in time, Europe and white people are achieving the best. But 1,000 years ago, it wasn't. 1,000 years ago, we had the Middle East was booming. They had science and stuff like that. Before that, it was China.
Yeah.
So things can pop up around the world. Yeah. So when we were going through the dark ages here and eating cow dung and living in mud huts, 1,500 years ago, after the Black Death when it decimated us. Other places were flourishing, so it
Yeah.
all depends what time scale you look at
Yeah.
things.
Although I'm not convinced that sub-Saharan Africa has particularly had a flourish period
It hasn't.
in world history.
It
if
hasn't.
I'm candid. So
Yeah.
it could be an inferiority thing that they've never
is.
had their day in the sun where they.
Yeah.
Because you're right. I think Islam, before it became obsessed with it, with the Quran and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff, was actually quite creative and
Yeah.
quite in at its peak, it was generating a lot of
They
interest.
took on all the Greek knowledge
Yeah.
and took it a couple of steps further
Yeah.
and things like
Yeah.
that.
They did just kind of eat themselves after that, didn't they?
Yeah,
Because they
yeah.
became too fundamental. But yeah, I know they did have a golden period.
And there's also reasons why none of this happened in Africa. There's reasons such as the geography of the land. So they've looked at civilizations across the world, and most civilizations start because of a big river, because that's easy trade, up and down the river, things like that. There's none in Africa. The rivers in Africa are all unmanageable to sail up and down because, from what I believe, Africa's like a big bump and it goes down like that. So it's
Getting geography lessons here, folks.
yeah. So it's very hard to sail back up the rivers and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
However,
Then you look at the diseases there as well.
What came out of the Rift Valley?
Yeah,
Human beings.
yeah,
Homo sapiens. I mean, if I was African, what I'd say is, look, maybe I didn't invent the telephone. Maybe we didn't invent, what was the other thing you said we invented? The jet engine.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe we didn't do that. But we created Homo sapiens. Beat that, mate.
Yes. Now I'm going to upset him now by saying the first Homo sapiens had white skin.
Yeah, but they were African.
Yeah, African. Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So you get a chimp, a close relative, and shave a chimp. Chimps have white skin. So when we started
I'm not
losing,
sure where we're going with this one, so...
yeah, I like to shave a chimp.
Yes.
Um,
I could shave a chimp. Yes.
so
So what's the
pigmentation,
shaving the chimp thing?
as in apes have white skin.
Right.
It's only when they are under the sun they have to start developing pigmentation.
I see.
Yeah.
Yes, but am I right that Homo sapiens came out of Africa?
No.
Yes, I am.
No. The first homos, not gay people, but the first homos, Homo erectus, things like that, one of them comes from Africa. But then, from what I believe, and this changes all the time with new findings, they left Africa. Well, some left Africa, and then they developed more. And I believe it was then some of them returned back into Africa, but then some of them in Europe and in China, some of them then, when we got to almost Homo sapiens, some of them started breeding with other Homo sapiens, such as the Neanderthals, and there was some others in China. It's complicated. I must do some more reading.
I've actually studied this quite a lot. So
Have you?
You are actually wrong. I think Homo sapiens came out of Africa about 100,000 years ago.
Right.
But I'm sure our gentle listeners will clarify that one. Well, I think we've got one or two more points about black people, just to finish off. Apparently they've made out now that that Henry VIII's trumpeter, who was black,
Yeah.
was a major historical figure.
Yeah.
Have you heard that one?
I've heard of him, but
He wasn't a major historical figure. He was just a trumpeter.
yeah,
The making out he played an important part in the decisions that were made by Henry VIII.
Yeah.
He didn't.
No.
He just played the trumpet.
so was he black or was he African?
You've got me.
So that's the first question
I
we'd
don't
ask.
know.
And let's say he's black. Well, he's black.
Yeah. No, they tried to... I think he's in a picture somewhere, a black
Right.
bloke playing a trumpet.
Yeah.
And they tried to then pretend he was somehow influential in Henry
Yeah.
VIII's decision making. I think that would be highly unlikely.
Yes.
And then the other kind of conceit they're pushing at the moment is that black people around before 1066, and apparently there were no black people in this country before 1066.
No.
So that's another thing they're pushing. For those who are interested, there's a very good article by Nick about this. What's that article called, Nick?
Black History Month. I can't remember the rest of it. But yeah, if I remember, I'll put a link.
If you could put a link in,
Yeah.
that would be good.
It's on my Substack.
Just just to finish off on a few kind of little things that I found quite interesting this week. There's a video, I sent it to you, and it's a video of the following countries: Iraq, Egypt, Algeria, Syria, Iran, and Afghanistan. And it's films taken in the 1970, specifically 1970 and 2023.
Yeah.
And it's specifically films or pictures of women in those times.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing in every video, the women in the 70s, dressed in nice European clothes, hair free, beautifully made up, having a good time, having a laugh. And then in every case in 2023, they are hooded, covered in hijabs, in groups, looking particularly unhappy all the way through. I mean, the disparity between those two periods is shocking.
And we talked about this a couple of episodes ago, and I remember saying radical Islam wasn't a problem in the 70s.
It wasn't.
Radical Islam is a new problem. That's why I think it'll be easily defeated. This isn't centuries of fighting radical Islam, no.
Yeah.
The Arab world was westernizing to a great extent. The reason why radical Islam took off is because the West used radical Islam to fight the Soviets. We used it as a tool. So we funded them. We funded the Taliban to fight the Russians in Afghanistan, and then several years later we're fighting them. Then a couple of decades later we're fighting them. So we empowered radical Islam because we thought we could control it, and we're fighting a superpower at the time. But now it's here now, and we need to fight it.
And I think I'm starting to come around to your view. Really, my view has been that we've been fighting this war for, I think I said 1,700 years now. So, but no, not 1,700. It'd be 1,300. Wouldn't it? 1,300 years now. But when I heard about what's happening in Iran, which is now that Muslims are only 34% or 40% or something of the population.
Closing down mosques.
I think you might be right. There might be something happening that events will overtake it. I don't think that'll solve the problem in this country. I think we have a problem with Islam in this country that needs active.
Yes, it does.
Actions to take place. But I think globally, you're right. There might be something shifting.
Well, Iran's very different because Iran is a very Western country. The people of Iran are very Western, and like the West, the government hates the West. A lot of the other Arab countries, the governments like the West, but the people hate the West. So Iran is Persian, it's not Arab. So they're very different. Very proud people, had a great empire, got a big history. So you insult a Persian by calling him an Arab.
I've joined a WhatsApp group, Nick.
Lonely. Does your wife know?
And it came about because I tried to go to a New Culture Forum meeting in Manchester, and I couldn't go for various reasons. But they said, "Oh, in the meantime, do you want to join a kind of an informal WhatsApp group?" So I joined an informal, and I literally joined it about a week ago. It's quite active, quite interesting, quite restrained actually for these kind of groups. But then bizarrely, just out of nowhere, one of them posted, "Oh, this is interesting," and posted one of your videos with me talking to you on it.
Our video.
I was gobsmacked, but I think whilst I thought it was really nice and I was flattered and I thought it's great, and I actually then posted another, because they were actually talking about, one of them is quite vocal, and he was saying there's no excuse for kicking somebody in the head, at the Manchester airport thing. So I said, well, actually there are people might think, and I posted your video about that, which has been very popular. But whilst I initially thought that's fantastic or whatever, I then thought, are our videos, are they being seen by maybe a bigger population than we think? And because there's too many coincidences now. People saying, I've seen you on TV, Lindsay, I saw your video, whatever. I'm getting it from all sorts of places, and this is just another example. And I know it's a specific group that will be looking at this stuff, but it still means that lots of people are seeing this now.
I don't know if more people are seeing it than we think. We only look at the viewing figures that YouTube provide, but the YouTube algorithm is very clever. So it does aim videos at people it thinks will enjoy it. I don't know.
I just thought it was fascinating.
Yeah.
And finally,
And did you say, that's me in the video?
no, I didn't,
Right.
because I'm not like that. I did point it out later on for another reason, but that was another. And finally, I sent you a video. Nick Dixon posted, and I know you know Nick Dixon, don't you? You talk to him occasionally or exchange ideas. And he's posted a video. He said from Simpler Times, and it was Jim Bowen, who's
The comedian.
yeah, he used to do Bullseye. So it was a clip from Bullseye. And he said from Simpler Times. And Jim Bowen, I don't know if you had a chance to watch it or you've seen it.
No, I didn't see it.
You must watch it.
Right.
I'm sure I posted it on your
You might have done. Right.
WhatsApp. And Jim Bowen was introducing two contestants, and two ladies came on, both quite big ladies, fat ladies. One was wearing this
Shell suit.
They were dressed quite nice in dresses, but one was quite fat and another one was big and kind of wearing this sort of big, very garish dress. And Jim Bowen said, so he did a little introduction, and he said to the first lady, I understand, call her Anne. Yeah. I understand, Anne, you've been on a sponsored Slim, and she said that's right, and he said, and how much do you owe them? Like that thing, and the audience cracked up, even the lady herself cracked up, and that. And he kind of put his hand and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just messing about." He said, "I could tell you both good sports like that." And then he looked at the door and he said, "You'd have to be wearing that dress." And you watch that and you think, "Oh my God, you could not get away with that now."
No.
But that to me is real English humour. That's really good English humour, very funny, making fun of people. You know, just kind of. And I just thought, we don't have that anymore, do we?
That's him playing his trade in the working men's clubs around the north of England.
Yeah.
That's where he came from.
Yeah.
And that's the same sort of humour.
And it's fantastic humour.
Yeah.
I think it's
just laugh at yourself.
Yeah. And we just don't have that quality of humour anymore,
because many people are too quick to be offended or pretend they're offended.
Yeah. But the ladies themselves were laughing at the jokes as well, because it was funny. It wasn't meant to be harmful or trying to hurt them in any way. It was literally just a joke. And what do we have nowadays? Nish Kumar.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
there is no good comedy anymore now.
No. There is.
There's one or two, like Ricky Gervais.
Yes.
A good film will come out every now and again. That's funny, but we don't have the sitcoms like we used to.
Yes.
The last decent sitcom we had in this country, I was thinking about the other day. I've started rewatching Red Dwarf.
Oh yeah.
So I think the last three decent sitcoms in this country would have been Only Fools and Horses, Red Dwarf, and League of Gentlemen. Apart from that, none.
None. Yeah.
All the other good comedies, sitcoms in this country, all come from the 70s. Porridge, Open All Hours, Rising Damp.
Some others do have them.
Yeah, all the 70s, but 80s onwards, I only can think of three.
Yeah. And that's because the comedians have been basically censored and hamstrung by progressives.
Yeah.
Basically. And I guess what I'm saying is there is good humour out there, folks, but we're not seeing it at the moment, but hopefully we'll come back.
Yes, it has to. The swing's already happening, you know, and things will change. Netflix are changing. Disney's changing. Because at the end of the day, apart from the BBC, all these TV producers only care about money and ratings. It's only BBC who has the luxury of not caring if you watch it or not.
Yeah.
But everybody else wants to make money, and if you can't get people watching it, then it doesn't get made or won't get made again.
And with those wise words, ladies and gentlemen, from Nick Buckley, MBE, thank you very much, Nick.
You're welcome. And one last plug.
Oh, yes.
Don't forget, my new book is out. It's getting some good reviews by me, my mum and my sister.
Buy it before it sells out, folks. That's all I can say.
Yeah, exactly. Rush now. Rush.
Yeah, it's a limited edition.
On Amazon, ebook, paperback. Buy it now.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Again.
Did you enjoy that video? I think you did. Come on now, hit that bell, subscribe, comment. Let's build this channel. I need more followers. I need more subscribers. Be part of the journey. See you soon.